Prince Harry did get into a physical fight with his uncle Prince Andrew.
For a long time, Prince Harry believed the hardest battles were finally behind him. The custody deal was signed, the lawyers stepped back, and it seemed like a fragile sense of peace had finally settled in. But just days after the agreement, Harry is said to have made disturbing accusations involving Meghan and Prince Andrew. So, what exactly pushed Harry to speak out after a deal meant to protect the children? Join us as we uncover the shocking claims that have reignited royal chaos. Archie and Lilibet custody crisis. February 3, 2026. Breaking news erupted as Buckingham Palace confirmed that the situation surrounding Archie and Lilibet had reached a full-blown crisis. According to official confirmation, both children had been formally removed from Meghan Markle's custodial control after what insiders described as a serious and alarming breach of responsibility. The chain of events reportedly began at dawn when a sealed legal document was delivered directly to Windsor Castle. Sources close to the Royal Child Welfare Office say the contents immediately raised red flags. Just days earlier, on January 31st, Meghan had quietly withdrawn Archie, age 7, and Lilibet, age 5, from their private schools in Santa Barbara. Without notifying the UK liaison team, the schools themselves, or even the court-appointed mediator overseeing the children's welfare, the situation worsened when California school administrators flagged the withdrawals as urgent. An internal alert marked "No show, immediate concern," questioned why neither child had returned for the spring term. No transfer paperwork was filed. No new school was named. There was simply nothing. According to sources, all attempts to reach Meghan afterward failed. By February 2nd, the concern had escalated into panic. Princess Anne reportedly called an emergency, unscheduled meeting inside Windsor Castle. Witnesses say she entered the room carrying a red folder stamped "Immediate Custodial Breach, Markle Withdrawal." She placed it firmly on the table in front of King Charles and delivered a blunt message. The family had tolerated years of public image maneuvering, but this crossed a line. This was no longer about headlines or reputation. It was about two children being left in limbo. Inside the folder were documents that stunned everyone present. Records showed multiple pediatric appointments for both children had been abruptly cancelled. There were written instructions from Meghan's legal team blocking communication from royal education and child welfare officials. Even more disturbing were signed papers showing the dissolution of a £6.3 million education trust fund, originally created for Archie and Lilibet's future schooling in the UK. But the most explosive document was dated January 29th, an intelligence memo marked "privileged and confidential." According to the Royal Intelligence Advisory Group, Meghan had spent the previous 4 months preparing for what insiders now called a complete maternal disengagement. Evidence allegedly included a non-disclosure agreement with a Dubai-based media financier requesting the removal of all past family associations ahead of a solo brand launch. There was also a memo declining to participate in Prince Harry's proposed joint custody plan, and internal Archewell contracts ordering all references to Archie and Lilibet removed from Spotify and Netflix materials by mid-2026. Royal legal advisors reportedly reached a stark conclusion. This was not co-parenting. One palace official summarized it chillingly. This was an attempt to erase the children's identity. Princess Anne moved swiftly. She authorized Duchess Sophie of Edinburgh to activate emergency custodial safeguard procedures, opening a formal case documenting Meghan's alleged disengagement. The file was immediately prepared for submission to both the UK Royal Chancery Court and California Family Court under shared jurisdiction. Later that same day, the crisis took on even greater weight. Prince William abruptly left an economic summit in Manchester and rushed to Windsor. He was handed the same red folder. After reading the final page, witnesses say he looked up and spoke quietly but firmly. This was no longer about Meghan. It was about protecting two children, emotionally, legally, and historically. That night, William and Princess Anne ordered a full emergency briefing for the Royal Advisory Council. Their objective was unprecedented: to remove all forms of Meghan Markle's custodial authority, physical, legal, and symbolic, from children of the Windsor bloodline. For the first time in modern royal history, the Crown prepared to invoke direct structural guardianship over minors, not as punishment, but as protection. At dawn on February 3rd, the plan went into action. Prince William, accompanied by Duchess Sophie and Lord Hargrave, entered the royal legal chamber. Behind closed doors, they presented a Level 1 emergency custodial brief accusing Meghan of deliberate abandonment. The case rested on 4 central claims: total withdrawal from parental, educational, and medical duties, alleged preparations to relocate to non-Hague nations, coordinated efforts to remove royal identity from the children's public image, and Prince Harry's inability to serve as sole guardian due to instability and lack of resources. At 10:20 a.m., Prince William invoked Appendix 4 of the Royal Succession Stabilization Act, a clause unused since the abdication crisis of Edward VIII. The provision allows the Crown to assume guardianship when royal minors face displacement or identity erasure. The Council's vote was unanimous. What followed sent shockwaves outward. First, the children's passports were frozen, halting all international travel without dual approval from Princess Anne and the Crown's Child Welfare Council. Second, an image protection order was issued, freezing any commercial use of Archie and Lilibet's names or likenesses for 5 years under the Windsor Privacy Act. Third, Prince William launched a £12 million Royal Restoration Fund dedicated to their emotional recovery, education, and long-term reintegration. How did the Royal Palace respond to Meghan's action? Let's find out. Royal Guardianship Protocol. When reports surfaced that Meghan Markle had quietly pulled Archie and Lilibet out of their private school in California, with no explanation given, it sent shockwaves within hours. Behind palace walls, a long-dormant emergency response team sprang back to life, activating a legal safeguard that had reportedly not been used since the early 1940s. At the center of it all was the Royal Guardianship Protocol, a centuries-old mechanism designed to protect royal children if their safety, identity, or future role is believed to be at risk. This is not a symbolic rule. It exists for moments of serious concern, and according to insiders, this was seen as one of those moments. Princess Anne, acting on behalf of the Crown's Child Welfare Committee, moved swiftly. An emergency meeting was called at Sandringham almost immediately. In attendance were senior palace lawyers, Prince William, and, most strikingly, a rare virtual appearance by Sir Alan Campbell of the Privy Council. The meeting had one clear focus: the mental and emotional well-being of the children, and the question of who ultimately held legal authority over their future. Sources close to the situation claim Meghan's sudden school withdrawal was not just a parenting decision, but part of a carefully planned media strategy. Behind the scenes, a new documentary project was allegedly being pitched to a Middle Eastern production company, one that would spotlight Meghan as a solo parent navigating public pressure. In this plan, Archie and Lilibet were said to be positioned less as royal children and more as symbols tied to a personal brand. But what Meghan may not have realized, insiders say, is that the palace had already been watching closely. On January 31st, a sealed and highly sensitive dossier, prepared under Prince William's direction and verified by Royal Treasury officials, was formally submitted to the Privy Council. The file reportedly contained a detailed audit of attempts to profit from the children's names, images, and royal status. It also included legal documents suggesting efforts to trademark Archie and Lilibet's identities across several countries, as well as risk assessments from public relations firms linked to celebrity gifting networks. These assessments allegedly pointed to upcoming branded baby products, loosely tied to Princess Diana's legacy. That same evening, Princess Anne released a firm and carefully worded statement. The message was clear. The House of Windsor would not allow children born into the institution to be commercially exploited, especially when such actions could endanger their safety or their constitutional position. The consequences were immediate and severe. Financial regulators in the UK and Canada reportedly froze accounts connected to a holding company Meghan had set up, allegedly named using the initials of Meghan, Archie, Lilibet, and a mysterious outside investor. Within just 24 hours, sponsorship deals linked to a children's storytelling platform Meghan had promoted began to collapse. Even more telling, was what happened online. Mentions of the children started quietly disappearing. Spotify removed archived references from podcast descriptions. Netflix deleted promotional images from a project once teased as a heartfelt royal-inspired series. Meghan's legal team cited ongoing court matters, but royal insiders claim the monarchy formally invoked international child protection laws tied to digital identity rights. In simple terms, the palace moved to erase unauthorized use of the children's images and names from commercial platforms worldwide. According to multiple sources within his inner circle, Harry was completely caught off guard. His request for temporary custody authority was reportedly denied due to technical and legal barriers. Among them, unresolved residency issues in the U.S., recent travel limitations, and the absence of stable, independent income. It was Prince Edward, long known as the monarchy's quiet but firm operator, who delivered the final decision. A confidential letter was hand-delivered to Harry by royal courier. Its message was blunt and unemotional. Custody, guardianship, and protection of Windsor children now fell solely under Crown protocol. Any future visits would be subject to strict conditions. The letter, drafted with King Charles's full knowledge, contained no personal remarks, only constitutional certainty. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Catherine, Princess of Wales, quietly stepped into a new role. Now overseeing Lilibet's emotional support plan, she adjusted her schedule to include weekly sessions with a palace-approved therapist who specializes in cross-cultural identity challenges. A trusted nanny from Wales was reassigned as Lilibet's primary caregiver, and George and Charlotte were gently encouraged to include her in family activities. One moment, in particular, seemed to say more than any official statement ever could. A single photograph was released to the press, Lilibet holding Princess Charlotte's hand as they walked out of Windsor Chapel on Candlemas Eve. No caption, no explanation, just a quiet image of continuity and the future, moving forward together. As for Meghan, by February 3rd, she was reportedly unreachable. Her team issued only a brief, vague statement about privacy, but to many watching closely, the silence itself spoke volumes. Did the custody judgment favor Meghan? Let's take a closer look. Meghan Markle custody ruling. On February 1, 2026, the courtroom went completely silent, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. The judge's ruling was historic. Meghan Markle was officially stripped of all custodial rights over Archie and Lilibet. Meghan, notably absent from the hearing, had stepped back entirely, her legal team explaining that she would no longer participate, but in leaving, she had created a silence louder than any defense could have. Almost immediately after the verdict, Princess Anne acted with remarkable decisiveness. In a rare live address from St. James's Palace, she declared, "Any formal influence Meghan Markle may claim over Windsor children is hereby null and void. The Crown no longer recognizes any maternal privileges previously granted. The welfare of Archie and Lilibet must reflect royal standards, not Hollywood ambitions." The ruling set off a rapid series of palace actions. First, the highly publicized $8 million trust Meghan had created, supposedly for the children's international education and independence, was frozen and quietly dismantled. A senior palace accountant later confirmed to The Times that none of the funds were routed through royal channels, leaving them completely unprotected by sovereign asset guidelines. Next, every commercial deal involving Archie and Lilibet's names, from cartoons to luxury brand endorsements, was declared null and void. A palace insider put it bluntly, the children were being treated as commodities. That line cannot be crossed under the Windsor Accords. Then came the most dramatic measure of all. By formal order of Prince William, and under a sovereign guardianship directive last used during the abdication crisis of 1936, both children's UK passports were placed in royal security custody. They are now legally barred from leaving the country until age 16, unless accompanied by a Crown-approved guardian. Sources confirmed that William personally activated the Edwardian Protocol, a sealed mechanism drafted nearly a century ago by Queen Mary. It grants the heir temporary guardianship over royal minors in times of family instability, a protocol that had remained classified until last week. Meanwhile, Princess Catherine assumed a role no consort has held since the post-war era. She is now personally overseeing Lilibet's emotional and educational well-being at a private Surrey estate under strict supervision. A royal nanny, speaking anonymously, revealed, "Lilibet is doing far better than expected. She trusts Catherine completely." What secret documents did Prince William quietly hand over to the Privy Council, and what move did the royal crown make? Let's find out. British Crown action against Meghan Markle. At exactly 10 a.m., the grand clock inside the Royal Household Child Welfare Committee's chamber chimed, marking the moment Princess Anne stood to speak for the second time in less than 2 days. But this wasn't a press briefing in the usual sense. This was a sealed courtroom, packed with UK High Court judges, senior child welfare officers, and 2 Privy Councillors summoned under emergency protocol. Every eye was fixed on her. Anne's voice was sharp, measured, and unflinching. "We are no longer speaking in hypotheticals," she declared. "The children, Archie Harrison and Lilibet Diana, have been placed at real emotional risk due to the deliberate disengagement of their mother, Miss Meghan Markle. Her actions breached the Windsor Accord custodial monitoring protocol." The room fell into stunned silence. Across the Atlantic, Meghan had been photographed aboard a luxury yacht in Doha, champagne in hand, laughing beside a Middle Eastern media tycoon. To the world, it was freedom, power, indulgence. To the royal household, it was something darker, abandonment cloaked in designer labels. According to the confidential Windsor briefing submitted by Princess Catherine, Meghan had ignored 3 urgent notices concerning her children's well-being. One warned that Archie had begun silently withdrawing from his schoolwork. Another detailed Lilibet's recurring night terrors and her disturbing drawings filled with violent imagery. Not a single acknowledgement, digital or otherwise, had been returned. When Prince William rose to speak, his fury was precise, controlled, but unmistakable. "This is no longer about reputation," he said. "It is about a deeper decay. Children born into the Windsor lineage deserve care, protection, and respect, not to be used as props for brand enhancement and then discarded when inconvenient." He revealed a sealed affidavit from a former Sussex staffer. It quoted Meghan's own words, spoken just before stepping back from her parental duties. "Let the crown raise them. I have an empire to rebuild." That single line hit the committee like an emotional bomb. Privately, Prince Edward reportedly told aides, "I've never seen William this enraged, not even after the Netflix ambush." This was about more than Archie and Lilibet. George, Charlotte, and Louis were all part of the equation, their future mirrored in this crisis. William had drawn a line. Back in California, Meghan's camp stayed silent. Her lawyer issued a cold, technical statement, dismissing the UK's claims of custodial negligence as non-binding under Californian law. But the palace was already several moves ahead. Princess Anne coordinated with the Foreign Office to activate a rarely used bilateral family protection clause from the post-Brexit Windsor Convention. This clause allowed the Crown to assume guardianship of a royal child abroad if there was clear evidence of danger, even without parental consent. On February 3, 2026, King Charles III, Prince William, and Princess Anne signed the decree in triplicate. Effective immediately, the British Crown assumed primary custodial authority over Archie and Lilibet, legally bypassing Meghan's parental control. The final act of this unprecedented operation came in silence. A private jet, chartered by the UK Foreign Office, quietly landed at Santa Barbara Airport. On board were 2 child welfare officers, a royal legal envoy, and a pediatric trauma specialist. Their mission, codenamed Operation Dandelion, was clear: document conditions, ensure legal compliance, and, if necessary, carefully extract the children. Meanwhile, Meghan's inner circle began to crumble. Tyler Perry, long considered a protector, reportedly demanded answers. "Why didn't you tell me about the palace notices?" His voicemail, later leaked, was quickly deleted. Oprah Winfrey allegedly distanced herself, furious her name was being linked to the family drama. Even Meghan's 2026 podcast, intended as a redemption arc, was quietly pulled after focus groups criticized it as insincere, superficially maternal, and emotionally detached. Amid all the chaos, the children remained quietly visible. Kensington Palace released a single, understated photograph: Prince Louis and Princess Charlotte sitting with Lilibet in Windsor's Rose Garden. The caption read simply, "Family endures." No dramatics, no fanfare, just a statement. Meghan may have tried to escape the crown, but the crown followed, not with threats, not with spectacle, but with law, guardianship, and lineage. How did Princess Charlotte come into all this? Let's take a closer look. Princess Charlotte's royal moment. While the world's media was ablaze with headlines about the public collapse of the Sussex marriage, another story was quietly unfolding behind the grand walls of Kensington Palace. A story of dignity, tradition, and the careful passing of royal responsibility across generations. As Meghan Markle's legal team scrambled frantically in Los Angeles, trying to protect her image and brand, Princess Charlotte of Wales stepped into the spotlight in a moment that felt completely natural, yet charged with meaning. It was a small gesture, but one that sent ripples across the monarchy like the faint echo of a bell calling attention to destiny itself. On the morning of February 1st, the Palace Communications Office released a surprising photograph. It showed Princess Charlotte standing beside Princess Anne and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, in the Royal Archives wing at Windsor Castle. Charlotte, poised and calm, held a delicate ivory-handled letter opener, rumored to have belonged to Queen Elizabeth II in the earliest years of her reign. Behind them, a youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth gazed outward with regal intensity, as if watching the moment unfold and silently passing her strength to the next generation. Insiders described the image as a transfer of resolve, a subtle yet unmistakable message of continuity. The timing of the photograph's release was no coincidence. That very morning, Meghan Markle suffered a legal setback. Her bid to claim compensation tied to Princess Diana's legacy was formally denied by a royal advisory committee, chaired by none other than Princess Anne herself. The ruling made it clear in strict legal terms: no individual may exploit the memory or legacy of Diana, Princess of Wales, for commercial gain without the sovereign's explicit permission. And marriage alone does not grant such rights. The decision was precise and measured, striking hard without public theatrics. In Los Angeles, Meghan was reportedly blindsided. Entertainment outlets suggested she had expected at least some leniency from King Charles. Instead, the king fully supported Anne's ruling, referencing a confidential memorandum Queen Elizabeth had prepared in 2020 ahead of her Platinum Jubilee. That document had outlined protections against unauthorized claims on the royal legacy, a silent safeguard that now proved decisive. Back in Windsor, the photograph of Charlotte quickly captured the public's imagination. Observers noted this was the first time she had been officially linked to a historic royal duty. Even more significant was the company she kept: Princess Anne, the Queen's most trusted enforcer, and Sophie, the palace's subtle but brilliant strategist. Together, the three formed a symbolic triangle: one who had preserved the crown through crisis, one who strengthened it through modern discipline, and one being gently prepared to protect it in the future. A palace source told The Times, "Princess Charlotte will not grow up watching the monarchy be dismantled by opportunism." That was a core principle in the Queen's final years, and Catherine and William are committed to preserving it. The emotional centerpiece of the day came later. Princess Catherine, still recovering from a recent medical procedure, appeared briefly on a palace balcony with Charlotte during a children's charity awards ceremony. Wearing a soft navy coat and the late Queen's sapphire brooch, Catherine placed a gentle hand on Charlotte's shoulder before stepping back. Charlotte then accepted a small floral tribute from one of the children. It lasted barely 15 seconds, but in that moment, the message was clear: tradition, continuity, and grace endure. Meanwhile, in California, Meghan's lawyers filed a revised petition seeking increased allowances for lifestyle protections, citing extreme psychological pressures tied to what they framed as royal abandonment. Is the Sussex divorce still, and who now has final control of the children? Let's find out. Sussex fallout and royal control. The Sussex split was no longer being seen as a tragic royal story. It had become a matter of resolution. Across social media, morning TV shows, and British tabloids, the contrast was impossible to miss. Meghan was still trying to control the optics, carefully negotiating her image, while the royal family was acting with permanence and authority. The public mood shifted sharply on February 2nd when Sir Alan Campbell, Lord President of the Privy Council, issued a brief but decisive clarification. All current royal trust arrangements, including the educational protections for Archie and Lilibet, would now be managed under a Guardian restructure clause. Princess Catherine, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward were formally named trustees. In effect, responsibility for the Sussex children had officially moved away from Harry and Meghan. As one Telegraph observer put it, the Crown is not punishing Harry and Meghan. It is simply correcting its course. Across the Atlantic, Harry reportedly declined a planned appearance at a veteran symposium in Arizona, citing lingering legal stress. Meghan, by contrast, was spotted filming content for a rumored solo lifestyle series called Reclaiming Grace, a move immediately mocked in British media as a desperate bid to polish her image. On February 1st, 2026, amid a week of escalating fallout from the public confirmation of Harry and Meghan's separation, Princess Catherine and her daughter, Princess Charlotte, made an unannounced appearance at a street-level David's Trust charity event. They arrived without pomp, but were impossible to ignore. The symbolism was clear. While Meghan faced scrutiny over her use of luxury branding tied to royal imagery, and Harry remained unreachable in Oregon, Catherine appeared calm, radiant, and resolute in a crimson wool coat, echoing Queen Elizabeth II's quiet strength during times of crisis. But it was Charlotte who stole the moment. Holding a small hand-stitched journal embroidered with the word hope, she stepped forward during the press line and, with surprising confidence, declared, "We are not currency. We are not stories for sale." Her words stunned the media. No royal child in living memory had spoken so clearly in public. Palace aides, visibly shaken, confirmed minutes later that Catherine had approved Charlotte's statement. This quiet but powerful act was Catherine's clearest message yet. The weaponization of Archie and Lilibet for personal gain would not be tolerated. Hours later, a senior royal source revealed that Catherine had drafted a private memorandum, now circulating among constitutional advisors and child welfare committees. Known as the Safeguarding Doctrine, the document set firm protections for royal children, referencing Queen Elizabeth II's custodial precedents and adding modern safeguards against AI cloning, unauthorized monetization of images, and psychological exploitation, issues highlighted in leaked documents from Meghan's upcoming lifestyle media pitch. Meanwhile, Meghan's team in California scrambled to control the narrative. Her publicist posted a tone-deaf Instagram story claiming Meghan had always supported children's voices, featuring a photo of Archie baking cookies. The palace quickly countered with a chilling statement. Empowerment is not manipulation. Protection is not obstruction. Silence is not absence. The timing could not have been worse. Reports had emerged that Meghan had attempted to enroll Archie in a talent agency for a branded children's cooking segment backed by a Qatari luxury sponsor, internally called Sussex Kitchen. Concerns had already been raised by the UK's Broadcast Ethics Council. With the royal household restructuring underway, Prince Edward now had the authority to review overseas uses of royal children's images. The consequences went beyond reputation. Leaked Sussex Foundation documents, under audit in both the UK and US, showed a family marketing plan approved by Meghan in January, detailing Lilibet's potential school appearances, wardrobe sponsors, and social media rollout dates. Princess Anne, blunt as ever, told reporters at the National Trust Archives, "There is no brand rollout for children. There is no press calendar for dignity. I will not allow it." Hours later, the Palace Child Welfare Committee voted on emergency measures. Led by Anne, William, and Sophie, they granted Prince William temporary joint oversight of Archie and Lilibet's privacy until a California court resolved custody. For the first time, the monarchy invoked non-consensual image clause rights under the 2023 Royal Privacy Act, preventing Meghan from using her children in promotional or monetized content. What do you think about Prince Harry's shocking accusations? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.